Good Thursday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Well, we made it over the hump, and we're in the home stretch toward the weekend. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Thursday. We have the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you've been part of my conversation with author, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur Jamiah Alexander, discussing her amazing success and the year that's been 2022. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Thursday headlines. In national news, man arrested in Brooklyn subway attack, charged with terror. The man accused of shooting 10 people on a Brooklyn subway train was arrested on Wednesday and charged with federal terrorism offense after a day-long manhunt in a tipster's call brought police to him on a Manhattan street. Frank R. James, 62, was taken into custody about 30 hours after the carnage on a crowded rush-hour train. He was awaiting arraignment on a charge that pertains to terrorist or other violent attacks against mass transit systems, Brooklyn U.S. Attorney said, and carries a sentence of up to life in prison. There is no indication that James had ties to terror organizations, international or otherwise, and the motive remains unclear at this time. It wasn't immediately clear either whether James, who is from New York but has lived recently in Philadelphia and Milwaukee, has an attorney or anyone else who can speak for him at the time of this report. A sign taped to the door of James' apartment in Milwaukee asked that all mail be delivered to a post office box. Tuesday's shooting left 5 people in critical condition, but all 10 gunshot victims were expected to survive. Police had initially said Tuesday that James was being sought for questioning because he had rented a van possibly connected to the attack, but weren't sure whether he was responsible for the shooting. James had railed in online videos about racism and violence in the U.S. and about his experiences with mental health care in New York City. In some videos, he criticized policies on mental health and subway safety. The gunman set off smoke grenades in a crowded subway car and then fired at least 33 shots with a 9mm handgun, police said. At least a dozen others who escaped gunshot wounds were treated for smoke inhalation and other injuries. The shooter escaped in the chaos but left behind numerous clues, including the gun, ammunition magazines, a hatchet, smoke grenades, gasoline, and the key to a U-Haul van. That key led investigators to James, a New York City area native who had more recent addresses in other states. Federal investigators determined the gun used in the shooting was purchased by James at a pawn shop, a licensed firearms dealer in the Columbus, Ohio area in 2011. The van was found unoccupied near a station where investigators determined the gunman had entered the subway system. No explosives or firearms were found in the van. A law enforcement official, who wasn't authorized to comment on the investigation and did so on condition of anonymity, told the Associated Press on Wednesday. Police did find other items, including pillows, suggesting he may have been sleeping or planned to sleep in the van. In more national news, Biden okays $800 million in military aid to Ukraine. President Joe Biden on Wednesday approved $800 million in new military assistance to Ukraine, including artillery and helicopters, to bolster its defenses against an intensified Russian offensive in the country's east. Biden announced the aid after a call with the Ukrainian President Zelensky to coordinate the delivery of the assistance, which he said included artillery systems, artillery rounds, and armored personnel carriers, as well as helicopters. This new package of assistance will contain many of the highly effective weapon systems we have already provided and new capabilities tailored to the wider assault we expect Russia to launch in eastern Ukraine, Biden said in a statement. Biden said the U.S. will continue to work with allies to share additional weapons and resources as the conflict continues. In more national news, actor Cuba Gooding Jr. pleads guilty to forcible touching. Actor Cuba Gooding Jr. pleaded guilty Wednesday to forcibly touching a woman at a New York nightclub in 2018. The guilty plea came nearly 3 years after the Oscar-winning Jerry Maguire star was arrested in the case that saw several delays as his lawyers sought to get charges reduced or dismissed. Gooding, 54, accused of violating 3 different women at various Manhattan night spots in 2018 and 2019, pleaded guilty to just one of the allegations. He told the judge he kissed the waitress on her lips without consent at the New York nightclub. Gooding's plea deal calls for no jail time. If he continues counseling for 6 months, he can withdraw the misdemeanor plea and plead guilty to a lesser violation of harassment. In more national news, CDC extends travel mask requirement to May 3rd as COVID rises. The Biden administration announced on Wednesday that it is extending the nationwide mask requirement for airplanes and public transit for 15 days as it monitors an uptick in COVID-19 cases. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said it was extending the order, which was set to expire on April the 18th, until May the 3rd to allow more time to study the BA2 Omicron subvariant that is now responsible for the vast majority of cases in the U.S. And finally, in business news, stocks rise broadly. Delta leads gains in travel companies. Stocks rose in afternoon trading on Wall Street Wednesday as investors reviewed the latest round of corporate earnings and an upbeat report from Delta Airlines that bodes well for the broader travel industry. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, it's all yours.
Hi, this is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Into the abyss and have faith, the ground will appear. All the great inventions, literary works, and ideas for success are born when a person is in their abyss, their dark place of not knowing what is next. God puts us in this abyss because this is where we are finally moldable. You go to this dark place because you are exhausted, and you think all your hopes, dreams, and goals have been shattered. Actually, in this dark abyss, you are finally listening to God. This dark place opens you up to follow your knowings, directing you toward better ideas for even more success. Today, if you are in your abyss, have faith. The ground is right below you. And always enjoy the day.
We are part of my conversation coming up with author, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur Jamiah Alexander in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Author, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker Jamiah Alexander rejoined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about her amazing success and what it's been like for her to do what she loves. Here's a bit of our conversation. You've been very busy since the last time you and I talked, but all over the country. And what I love about what you've been doing, Jamiah, is you have been showing people what's possible. I think that's going to be important as we talk about what's coming up on May the 7th. But what has that been like for you to use your own life as an example for others as to what they can do?
Well, once I got to the point of my life where I realized that it is solely not my own, that's when, the outlook was very different. Going through so many changes in life, when you think that you have arrived to a certain level, that's when God comes back and be like, no ma'am, you're not there yet. And if you were, you may as well get ready to check out. So that, it has been, I'm telling you, it has been something, another level of elevation in life spiritually and mentally and definitely emotionally, putting everything in place so that I can truly be the leader in light of the world that I aspire to be, because thus is the Lord. So that's really it. It's nothing too spiffy, spectacular. It's just, actually being back to my most purest form, before the traumas, before everything in life happened. So, yeah, that's it. Like, that's what it's been about, honestly.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning into this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll be back to you guys on tomorrow to wrap up this week. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make today amazing. Take care.